Hey guys, so I have Mr. Pradyut Hande, who is heading the product marketing and netcore solutions.
That's correct.
Now, first of all, Pradyut, help me with a couple of things. Okay, I'm
Sure.
getting a little bit of his introduction. Okay, and I have a few questions for this. Okay, a B2B SaaS marketer,
Right.
mobile growth consultant,
Right.
featured in 100 most innovative MarTech leaders of 2019, featured in places such as Your Story, Economic Times, an influencer and on YouTube and Instagram. So भाई आप exactly करते क्या हो? Let's just start with that.
Okay. I'll break it down. In simple terms, I work for a company which basically sells software as a service. That's what SaaS stands for. Basically, we create software that is used by a lot of these top-notch, consumer brands. Like think of the Olas, the Zomatos, Swiggies, Flipkarts, any digital business today which has a website or a mobile app. We cater to large businesses like that. We basically, the software, what it does is it helps businesses use that software to understand what people like Pratham and I do on the platform, whether it's on the website or mobile app, and it helps them figure out how to engage with end users like us, right? Whether it's through email, whether it's through push notifications, whether it's through SMS, all of that. So there's a data angle to it, there is a customer behavior angle to it, and then there is an engagement angle to it. And why do brands use this? Simply because they want to acquire new customers, they want to retain existing customers, and they want to make as much money as possible. So that's what we do as a company. And as a product marketer, my job is to take this software to the market, tell brands that, hey, this is what you can do with software like this. These are the use cases and applications of this particular software. And there's nothing like this in the market, etc., etc. So that's pretty much what I do in a nutshell. And it's an exciting space to be, which is SaaS.
Acha, now coming back a little bit to your
Sure.
career. So when you explained,
Yeah.
your what Netcore does,
Right.
I have a question.
Sure.
And by the way, this is something where I know a lot of students again have generic questions that see,
Sure.
what you explained is while it might be a huge industry in itself,
Correct.
for a customer, for a student who
Yes.
is, you have to explain it is so much in depth for someone to understand. How did you sort of reach here? If you can start with your entire journey, and
Sure.
and also while you explain your thing, if you can parallelly explain that how does it organically happen with humans that in our careers I'm sure you didn't think 10 years ago that this is the place you'd be at.
100%.
Correct. So if you can just take us through your and maybe a parallel journey with a random student.
Of course. So, honestly speaking, I come from a defense fraternity. Both my parents are doctors in the Navy. So, when I finished my class 10th, it was a given that I would take up biology because, sort of it's more like an inherited textbook and line of work. So I didn't really have much of a say back then. I went ahead with biology, and in fact, I gave my medical entrance exams, got into medical school. But somewhere at the back of my mind, I knew that this is not a line that I can commit to full time. Because see, the medical profession or the legal profession is unlike any other profession, right? When you decide to do an MBBS or you decide to do an LLB, very few times would it be that you choose to step away from it. So it requires 100% commitment the moment you give that entrance exam. So I didn't have that. I, in fact, stepped away from medical school and chose to do my BBA from NMIMS in Mumbai. It was a bold decision at that time. This was back in 2009. And there were a lot of changes happening. If you remember, the World Cup was around the corner in South Africa, the Football World Cup. There were so many changes happening in terms of the socioeconomics of the country. And all of a sudden, for a school student to expose himself to, the changes that one experiences in a college setting, that was completely different. Why I chose to do a BBA was I wanted a more well-rounded sort of a course that did not cut off my options early in life. So a BBA gives you your exposure to marketing, to advertising, to finance, accounting, a bit of everything. And I specifically chose a course that did not allow me to specialize, because I had still not made up my mind what I wanted to do. I had a fair inkling that I want to get into marketing, but it was something that was shaped and reshaped and remolded during my 3 years of my BBA course, right? So a lot of us growing up as students have a finite view or an outlook on what we want to become, right? And there are many of us that have absolutely no clue or have a basic idea ki ha theek hai, this might be something that I might be good at. I think the key is to bridge your skills, passion, and aptitude. I think that is what helps you when you connect those dots. That's what creates the foundation for a decent career. And if you can find those three ingredients during your graduation, just before your graduation, then nothing like it, right? So I did my BBA. I was really excited.
Before
Sure,
you go
go
to
on.
further, how did
Sure.
you choose BBA because you wanted a sort of a holistic
Correct.
graduate degree?
Correct.
Why not
Correct.
BCom?
Yeah, so I had not studied commerce at all. I was a science student. So honestly speaking, I went ahead with the BBA that had a smattering of commerce and economics involved. It was not like a full-time BCom course, because honestly, the other option was, getting into economics or doing a BCom and supplementing that with a CA, etc. But I didn't want to get into finance per se. So, which is why the choice of a BBA. Right. And while I was doing my BBA, I realized that I had rekindled interest in core marketing content, because we grew up in the golden age of advertising. Think about the Cadbury's ka kya swad hai zindagi ka, and then Pepsi's ye dil mange more, and Amul's utterly butterly delicious. Right. So we've grown up in that golden era of advertising in India. And for me, I wanted to understand how brands work, how are they being able to come up with something that is resonating with the market. So I started developing that interest at a very deeper level, and I started understanding that things go beyond what they teach you in theory, because theory is just your foundation. And also, while you are being given that pedagogy, they're taking lectures, etc., learning is so much driven by self motivation. Sitting in a lecture will give you X% of knowledge, but you taking the effort to reading up, going to the library, talking to marketing professors,
Yeah,
any
even
professor for
sitting
that
in the
matter.
lecture
Yes.
with that willingness to learn is requires self motivation. So yeah, you're 100%.
Absolutely. So, and if you have a latent interest in something, that motivation is easier to build and sustain. That's what I believe. So, to all those who are listening, also who are trying to figure out their next career move, I mentioned three things that you need to connect the dots with: your passion for something or your interest in something, building the requisite skills basis that, and your and also identifying where potential opportunities are going to come up. So I'm going to come to that slightly later, but I'm going to stick to my BBA. And then post that, I understood that I wanted to get into advertising, marketing, just learn how the industry functions, how brands are looking at creating such amazing campaigns or engagement, etc. So I was in public relations for about a year, post which I did my MBA in marketing from Symbiosis University in Pune. I did my MBA, I finished my MBA in marketing in 2015. And by then I was very clear that, boss, I want to make a career in marketing. Of course, I had no idea that I would end up in SaaS marketing, because the industry itself was so, I can't say unknown, but it was little known. It was not a major revolution in India,
Yeah.
right? So there were very few companies that were doing it. Globally, of course, we've heard of Salesforce, SAP, and IBM. India is more IT, right? The Infosys, Wipros, and TCSs of the world. So that was never on the horizon at all. Incidentally, after I finished my MBA, I joined Infosys as a consultant. And that's the first time that I worked in a tech environment. It was not an out and out marketing role, but it gave me an idea of, and when I was looking at how marketing is handled in a tech organization, I realized that, hey, this is something totally different. And then I started reading up, speaking to a lot of people, figuring out how the Microsofts and the Facebooks of the world are doing it. And I realized that there's a, sort of like you come to a crossroads where you feel that you have certain skills. I was always good at content. I understood how marketing worked. I could do my market research really well. And I figured that there will be a demand for something like this. So it's so important to not go into something with blinkers on. Always keep your eyes and ears open, because you never know where the next tide is going to come from and where that tide can take you if you get onto it. Right. So I was at Infosys for a brief time, and I realized that I need to make my move now. I can't say I was worldly wise, but my eyes were far more open than they were before I got into the industry. And post that, I was at a couple of startups just learning the ropes, and I said I'm okay taking a pay cut, because sometimes your learning, you cannot compromise on your learning journey just because you are wondering, okay, this pay package is something that I don't want to take up. So that risk taking appetite also has to be there. And as a young bachelor, 25, 24, 25, I was able to take those risks at that age. And I'm glad I took them, because not everything can be tied back to the money that you make or the salary that hits your account at the end of the month or the beginning of the next month, right? Because I understood that I needed some on ground learning and some tough lessons to prepare myself to get into the industry of tech marketing. And the only way to do that was, I was working with folks who were 3-4 years younger than me, and who knew that they wanted to get into this entire industry. So I can't say that I lost time, but I was making up for time that I might have lost. Right. So I looked at it that way, and post that, a couple of startups, I got a job in Mumbai with a very hyper growth SaaS startup called Clevertap, where I was heading solutions marketing. So yeah, I mean, and after that in 2018, I joined Netcore as the head of product marketing. So it's a very non-linear journey. Plenty of lessons to take from this. I think one key lesson here is that understanding what you want and understanding what you don't want are both equally important. So, you have a follow-up question to that?
Yeah, yeah. In fact, it's a very common question that has come around. That
Sure.
so when you whether you talk about passion, skill, and aptitude,
Right.
or you speak about, it's very important to know what you want, and equally important to know what you don't want.
Correct.
Um, the problem that we've seen is that students are not self-aware enough to
Right.
know what that is, because number one, they don't have that much exposure. If you've been born and brought up, for example, in Mumbai, you go to school, you get into a college. In your college, there is, you decide what to study, you pick up anything, um, whether it's commerce or engineering, for example, and you pick up
Correct.
an additional parallel course to ensure that you're doing academically well. You
Correct.
do a couple of internships, but by the time you're 21, right, very few people have had enough exposure to know what they're good at, because they barely explored anything besides academics. That's one.
Correct.
I'm sure that if we sit and talk to 10 students right now and ask them their skills, their aptitude, and their passion, number one, they wouldn't be clear with how to
All three
what each
of
of
these.
those
Yeah.
three mean.
Right.
And then over and above that, how do you identify, at what level do you say, okay, I'm a little good at, for example, badminton, but it's not enough to make it a skill set. Like, at what I love badminton, so I have passion for it. Um, Aptitude wise, obviously, you've been playing throughout your life. Max to max, you played is for your school, right?
Right.
That's it. How do you define that as a skill set, and how do you draw a line that I know what I know I like sports. In sports, I like badminton. I don't like a desk job. When you've not had any exposure, and a SaaS marketing head might have a desk job, but it might be something that is so much of fun for that person.
Right.
Badminton player will never know only whether it's for him or if it's for him, or not for him or her. So
Right.
there's too much of confusion with all of this.
No, I 100% agree. And also, there is the dichotomy of choice. We are the generation that's spoiled for choice and inundated with information. because we have ready access to the internet, we have friend circles, we have concerned family members who are bombarding us with information and inputs. What is important at a really young age is to, of course, these filters are not going to come in immediately. You will realize with the passage of time what is important, what you can discard, what you can take on board. And I think that stems from a place of self-awareness. Self-awareness stems from a place of exposing yourself to new experiences and taking risks. So honestly, I started working with my PR agency in my final year of college, which meant that it was a little, it started off with the intention of earning a little bit of money on the side. But I knew that the kind of learning that I was getting there, maybe I don't become a public relations agent in the future. The idea was that at least I will know in 6 months' time that I don't want to become a PR agent, right? So you have to, when you don't have a clear cut path to what you want to become, you have to try different things. So that's what I'm trying to say. And honestly, right now, we live in an era where opportunities are dime a dozen. A student who is really willing, who is compelled to put in the hard yards, can pick up 3 to 4 solid remote working internships in 1 week on LinkedIn. You network properly, build a solid brand for yourself, connect with the right folks, you will be able to get that. And the point is not to just add it to your resume for the sake of adding it, but get that learning out of it. And also realize, okay, out of these 4 things, maybe I did one in branding, I did one something around social media and digital media, I did my third project. And I'm talking about like if you've decided roughly that you want to do marketing. Fourth one I've done around market research. Now, out of those 4, over the span of maybe 7 to 8 months, you'll realize that, okay, these are 3 things that were okay. Like I did my best, I got the certificate, but I didn't enjoy it that much. There will be social media or digital marketing that really stands out. Maybe you had a great mentor or someone you enjoyed working with at that company who has sparked that interest in you. So it's really important to also, if you've identified, it's easier if you have identified what you want to do. If you've not identified what you want to do, have a rough idea, speak to people, speak to the right people. You will have some cousin, some friend who's working in a similar role. You will eventually end up interacting with your peers, your seniors, your alumni who are in certain roles along mentally. If you've decided कि ठीक है, you may not know digital marketing में क्या करना है, but you know digital marketing में let me explore, let me collect the right information from the right people and ask the right people the right questions. So I think that becomes a great starting point.
So, man, okay. So the next question:
Sure.
If somebody is
Sure.
wanting to get into marketing, right, for the
Right.
first time in their lives, could be anything. They could just be, they could literally be 17 again. They could,
Right.
they could be 17. They could
Right.
be just about to graduate.
Sure.
They're thinking of internships. Internships, I've seen. We get a lot of applications for internships, and sometimes
Right.
it's not even for the role that we have. Sometimes
Right.
the most commonly applied internship is for social media marketing, because
Right.
everyone is a user of Instagram, everyone is
Correct.
a user of YouTube, and they feel that because I overuse it, or
Yeah.
because of my personal brand, I have 2,000 followers, a
Right.
personal profile, not even brand at that point of time,
Right.
and it's easy as a customer to use. But
Correct.
of course, once you get into it in your internship, luckily you realize how far away from that
Reality that is. Yeah.